Hey, Bismillah. Let's talk about bodywork, somatic bodywork. So I'm recording this video to answer some questions I've been getting about what somatic bodywork is and how it fits inside of our journeys of healing. So I'll be opening up my calendar the second week of August, so next week, Monday through Thursday, to offer one-on-one somatic bodywork sessions locally to women here in Chicago. And I want to just talk more generally about why somatic bodywork is important and what somatic bodywork is. Okay, so I think the first thing I want to say is that bodywork, and specifically touch, as a form of healing, is ancient and indigenous to most of our cultures. Before we had modern medicine, before we even were able to fully discover as humans which plants and herbs were safe for us to use and healing for us, we had touch as a form of healing. And touch as a form of healing has been passed down from generation to generation in most traditional healing modalities. Unfortunately, touch as a form of healing has almost all but disappeared from Western healing modalities, including from like westernized somatics. But in most Eastern traditions and most non-Western traditions, touch still exists as a form of healing. Now, many of you have experienced some kind of bodywork. You've been to a massage therapist, you've been to a chiropractor. There are so many different modalities now of bodywork, craniosacral therapies and Feldenkrais and different things. Somatic bodywork, as I practice it, and as many colleagues of mine and many people trained in my lineage of somatics practice it, is a way of supporting the body to de-armor. We all have armoring strategies. They're natural and inherent to our system of survival. So when we are under threat, the body will mobilize itself in a particular way and in a particular pattern in order to protect itself. So we will fight, we will flee, we will freeze, we will dissociate, we will appease in order to get safe. In order to keep the body from harm. Now, what can happen over time is that we can get stuck or caught in particular patterns of survival or coping. And for our purposes, let's just call that armoring. Okay, so we can get caught in particular patterns of armoring. We armor ourselves so that we don't get hurt again. Okay, so a lot of us can put armor around our hearts so that we don't get our hearts broken. A lot of us can put armor around our throats because we may perceive, and it may fully be true, that our truth has not been honored, or we have not been heard by our families. People don't listen to us when we speak. So we can develop an incredible amount of contraction around the throat because we begin to perceive and embody that no one's going to listen to us anyway. So we can close around the throat, hold ourselves from speaking something in a moment where we want to. We can contort our truth so that it can fit within predominant culture if we're afraid of unbelonging or not belonging. And so on and so forth. We can take so many examples of just the ways that we armor to protect ourselves from being hurt in physical ways and non-physical ways. We can protect ourselves from being emotionally hurt from the feeling of not belonging or trying hard to belong. So we do all these things with our body to contort ourselves, to protect ourselves, to armor and guard ourselves, to shield ourselves, you name it. Every single one of us is a conglomeration of different survival and armoring strategies. Okay, so what does that mean for our current lives? It might mean that something really beautiful is happening in our life, and it's really hard to let it in because there's a lot of armor around particular parts of us. So we might be falling in love again. We might be loving a new job. We might be loving a new person, might be loving a new child coming into our lives. But it's really hard to let that love in because there's a lot of armor around the heart because of past experiences. We might be in a position now, in a relationship, in a community of people who are willing to hear us out, who are willing to listen to what we have to say. But there's so much contraction because that even when we're in a position where it's safe to speak, it's really hard for us to speak. So those contractions still get in the way of us being able to express ourselves and express our needs. We may be in a place where we're just surrounded by a lot of blessings and a lot of joy. There's a lot of joy in our life now. But our mouth has been so downturned, and the face and the spirit has been so downturned from an extended period of loneliness or depression or hard and difficult thoughts, that even though there's an incredible amount of joy now that's available to us, we can't actually access it. We can't actually feel it. We can't actually let it in because the system is so kind of pre-wired and we've already kind of predetermined and predestined ourselves to not believe that joy is available to us in our lives. So how do we move through that? Well, there are many, many, many ways. A lot of people are exploring breath work, and a lot of people are exploring somatics, which I feel really happy about. People are exploring alternative therapies, traditional therapy, if it continues to serve people, counseling. And body work is just one of those many ways that we can experience a healing at a deeper level. So through body work, we extend touch, benevolent, caring, present touch, not to fix something, right? We're not poking and prodding around to try to fix something. We're not moving the joints and the muscle around. Oh, what's wrong here, right? We're applying benevolent, caring, present touch in order to communicate to those tissues where we are most armored that they're allowed to feel a little bit more now. We invite those tissues through touch, through extension of touch and energy. We invite our armor to begin to melt. We invite ourselves to de-armor, to begin to thaw out of those strategies and coping mechanisms, that prevent us in current time circumstance from actually experiencing the beautiful things that are happening in our life, that keep us numb and unfeeling. So we want to begin to thaw the tissues that are helping us do that. And when I say tissue, because that's actually where it's getting stored. So many of our survival strategies, our coping mechanisms, our methods of armoring get stored in the connective tissue between the muscle and the bone. So we call this fascia, What's so brilliant about the body, about our bodies, is that they're incredibly efficient. If we are not using particular tissues, the body will get rid of them. Okay. So I'm just going to give a very kind of crude and obvious somatic example so that we can get to know this a little bit more. So let's say I have an embodied habit or strategy of not believing in myself. Okay, everything has a shape. We are all shaped in particular ways. We're all walking around. With these strategies kind of pretty obvious on us. Less obvious to us, a lot more obvious to the people in their lives. So if I am embodying a narrative of not good enough, not enough, a lack of self-worth, that will show up in the body, and that will often show up as a collapse. Okay, so my heart is tucked back, my shoulders are kind of coming forward, and this is a really brilliant strategy to protect the heart and the heart from the pain of that narrative. It's a very painful narrative to think that we're not good enough. It's a very painful narrative to always constantly be in that struggle of like, am I worthy? Am I worthy? Am I worthy? And always be coming up with an answer that I'm not worthy, I'm not worthy. So to protect ourselves from that pain, we'll often tuck our heart back, kind of collapse our chest and bring the shoulders forward. Okay, if you do this with me for like 0.5 seconds, I don't want you to stay in that too long, you'll notice something starts to happen in the collarbones. Okay, you'll notice that something starts to happen in the chest. What happens is the connective tissue all through this upper chest, especially around the collarbone, will start to shrink to support this shape. So if I'm holding this shape for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 40 years, whatever it might be, that connective tissue that helps the chest actually expand and helps the heart be forward will have shrunk to such an extent that it's actually really difficult to set the shoulders back and bring the heart forward. So even if we want that in our life, it becomes physically very difficult to do that because we've lost so much of that elastic connective tissue that allows us to be flexible in that way. So through body work, what we start to do is we communicate to the tissues to start to create a little bit more room here. As we extend into that connective tissue, so somatic bodywork works directly with the fascia and the connective tissue of the body around particular armoring bands. So if we're just taking this armoring band around the throat and the upper chest of the heart, as we extend, touch into that connective tissue, we're communicating to the connective tissue that we want more space here. Okay, if I have a really tight rubber band and I press on that rubber band, and I'm extending into that rubber band, eventually what will happen is that very tight rubber band will start to get loose and nimble again. Okay, we'll get more flexible again. And that's exactly what we're doing by extending touch in these places that are the most contracted in our body. We're inviting that connective tissue to get a little bit more flexible, and actually grow. And eventually the body will learn, will receive that message. And we have seen people's connective tissue literally expand. Like the body will grow the tissues that you need. So if that connective tissue shrunk over time, it can also grow over time. So we want to go from that shrunken up connective tissue and we want to expand it, and the body will respond to that touch and that extension and will eventually start to grow new connective tissue, okay, that will support the new shape that we want to be in. So that's one small example. We can begin to visualize how somatic bodywork works through extension into the connective tissue of these main armoring bands that every single one of us have that run horizontally across the body, all the way down to the bottoms of the feet, that prevent energy from running and flowing vertically through the body. Okay, so we all have an armoring band around the ocular lens and the ocular band that runs from the eyes all the way to the back of the head. We have that in the jaw, the mandibular band. You can imagine if you tend to be a fighter, that you've got a lot of really tight connective tissue in the jaw. In order to fight, I need to bear down in my jaw. I need to be able to tighten my jaw so that I can take a hit. It's really natural. Over time, if I'm holding that armoring in position for so long, it'll be really hard for me to open my mouth and wiggle my jaw. be really hard for me to smile in a particular way because the jaw will be set in a particular way. In any case, you can begin to feel into how all of this connective tissue around the jaw, around the eyes, around the throat, the upper chest, and like I said, running all the way down to the bottoms of the feet, how that connective tissue is part of the story that is playing out in your system. How the ways that you hold yourself in these particular places, the shapes that you take in these particular parts of your body, how that is part of a greater story and narrative of who you are today, and also a part of the narrative of how you want to change and transform and heal. Yeah. If there's a story of unworthiness that's living inside of you, I say living inside of you because it's literally living inside of your tissues. It's stored somewhere in your eyes. It's stored somewhere in your jaw. That story of unworthiness, you're going to notice how it lives here inside of your chest, inside, behind your heart, in front of your heart, around your heart. Okay. So on and so forth. So in order to begin to embody and embrace a new story of our lives, I am worthy. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of joy. I'm worthy of Allah's blessings, of God's blessings. In order to start to embody that, we need to work with the historical narrative as it's currently stored in the system. And through somatic bodywork, we can do that and begin to unlock some of that energy that's stored in these different parts of the body. So I hope that gives you a sense of what somatic bodywork is. And I look forward to seeing some of you. And I hope this, whether that you receive a session this coming week, next week from me, or are ever interested in somatic bodywork, that this gives you a little bit more information about what somatic bodywork is, and probably a little taste of what somatics is in general. Okay, thank you. Assalamu alaikum.